Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Areeb Bakheet, and I would like to begin with one simple sentence I'm sure many of you have probably heard of before, and that is, personal branding is all about how other people see you. And if I were to stop there, none of you would be surprised, since this is the most common understanding of personal branding today. However, this idea has led personal branding to be treated as a performance, a facade, and a way to perfectly curate an image of yourself that aligns with an audience. But when personal branding relies on that, and solely that perception, it slowly deteriorates you from whom you actually are. Since when you combine people's perception of you and their opinions, it becomes difficult, even for yourself, to distinguish what's fabricated from who you truly are. This misunderstanding reminds me of a very well-known quote that I deeply resonate with. I'm not who I think I am. I'm not who you think I am. I'm who I think you think I am. To me, this quote perfectly captures how easily we give other people's opinions more weight than even our own. We start building our identity around how we think we're being perceived, and when doing so, authenticity disappears. Worse than that, you stop being yourself. And what's the point of personal branding if it's not personal? That's why I want to challenge how we think of personal branding, not by reinvention, but by stripping away the stereotype that many believe it has. I think personal branding should be about the choices you make in the process of exploring your own potential. This includes your strengths, your weaknesses, uncomfortable moments, and times where you succeed, because all those things are a part of who you are. You know that intuition that helps you distinguish whether something is genuine and authentic or not? Well, when you share the process of you being yourself, people will see that naturally. It will align with your values, morals, and who you are as a whole. I'm not saying that some elements of your personal branding can't be showcased intentionally, but it should never, and I mean never, driven by expectations or people's approval. I relate to this deeply because I consider myself a person with a multidimensional identity. What I mean by this is that I enjoy immersing myself in different fields. Unfortunately, this led people to only see or recognize one aspect of who I was. Sometimes it was the academic and extracurricular version of me. Other times it was my entrepreneurship. And at one moment, when I used to play basketball, I was only seen as an athlete. Even I struggled to merge these identities, because there are stereotypes to each field and what skill set each attains. So when someone labels you in a specific category, it makes you believe subconsciously that you are meant to fit in that one singular box, and that box only. It makes it hard for you to step out of your comfort zone, because why would you if you already found something that you're great at? Then, I saw it from a different perspective. Since I have this multidimensional identity, I can use the skills that I attained from each area of discipline as transferable skills. This brings a part of who I am into everything I choose to pursue. And that's exactly why personal branding is so powerful, because when done correctly, it unifies all aspects of who you are, making you uniquely yourself. Now, some of you may be asking, well, Areeb, how do I discover who I am authentically? As Mel Robbins said, I would like you to think of life as being held a set of cards. These cards are your opportunities, skills, experiences, and even your limitations. The purpose of the cards is to explore what you have and learn how to play them right. Because most of the time, success, it has less to do with the cards that you are given and more to do with how you use and enhance them with discipline and curiosity. But unfortunately, there's a problem that arises when we use this cards analogy, and that is comparison. Unfortunately, when we start labeling others and even ourselves as cards, the focus shifts from what we have to what we don't. That's when it becomes easy to look at someone else's cards, wish you had theirs, and fall into a victim mentality. That's where the phrase, comparison is the thief of joy, comes from. But what if comparison doesn't have to be that way? What if comparison doesn't need to make you feel less than? What if it doesn't need to bury your self-esteem? What would you all think if I said it can be the key to your success? I know comparison has gained a bad reputation these days because we associate it with competition and self-diminishment, and that's totally true when it comes to the negative, degrading type of self-comparison. But I want you all for a moment to see the other type, and that's the positive kind. Positive comparison can be used as a tool to observe how other people succeed, learn from their processes, and expand on your own. The people who have the cards you aspire, they're not your competitors, they're resources. I want you all to think of a moment where you felt like you had to work for something, and it was hard to, or you felt like it was unfair to, but you continued it anyways. I'm sure we can all agree that that feeling, after the relentlessness, is unmatched, because our discipline and strength, it grew when we were questioning whether to continue that task and continued it anyways. And to those that still can't relate to the feeling I'm describing, growing a business taught me something that I now carry in all aspects of my life, and I want to remind you all of. When you feel like you're tired, when you feel like you can't continue, that means you're challenging yourself. And when you challenge yourself, that means you're refining and raising the roof you thought you had over your head. That's why comparison and personal branding should embrace discomfort. And it should embrace discomfort and challenges. We often view challenges and problems as the same thing, and we use the words interchangeably, but they're not the same. A challenge is an opportunity to grow, and an opportunity you should be grateful for because it showcases your skills. Most of the time, obstacles, even small ones, show you that you're capable in tackling bigger and more rewarding ones. And still, after embracing who you are and feeling content with yourself and your branding, there is still one final, unavoidable part of personal branding that we all face, and that is criticism. Unfortunately, when we start labeling ourselves and when we hear other people criticize us, it makes us feel less than. But we often forget that not all criticism deserves equal weight, since it reflects more of the speaker than the receiver, their beliefs, their experiences, and most of all, their insecurities. That's why we should try to limit who we hear criticism from to people you care about, you respect and look up to, and most importantly, yourself. Because no one is living in your shoes, and I mean no one is other than yourself. When you live in alignment with yourself, your branding will shine through naturally, in uncomfortable moments, criticism, and of course, through personal growth. And I would like to leave you all with one simple idea. Have the willingness to stay uncomfortable and challenge who you are. Your cards aren't going anywhere, and neither are theirs. So instead of wishing for a different hand, use the ones you have, learn from their experiences, and stay eager to grow your own. Thank you so much.